organizations or businesses might publicly advocate for positive mental health and well-being, but don't necessarily on the inside internally walk the talk. So they all talk but no action. So we see some common examples of this where, people might celebrate the mental health days, or like Are You OK Day, or Mental Health Month. They might do a few things, or a couple of the really important kind of wellbeing days, but not quite be walking the talk in terms of understanding their culture, their leadership, their roles, or their organisational stressors. What are the psychosocial risks that may be impacting on people? I think a lot of organisations too, even though many are very sophisticated now, I think a lot of organisations can often just fall into that tick the box or a quick fix solution. So, an example of that would be, we've done an engagement survey and we found out that everybody's really stressed, or there's a lot of occupational burnout around. So let's put on some lunchtime yoga courses. And that's for some organizations, that's their solution, that's their wellbeing strategy. So what we sometimes see is that people are putting on those band-aid solutions when actually there's gaping wounds there in their organisation, but they're either not aware of it or maybe a little hesitant to really kind of step into that. So I think in order to answer your question around what can organisations actually do in that regard, it's certainly, I think, taking a step back, being able to assess what those psychosocial hazards are or those risks are that may present in one's organisation or even in bespoke specific teams. Really look at what are those controls or those measures, what are those protective factors that we can put in place. And I think sometimes as well what we often see as a form of that wellbeing washing is that organisations put a lot of responsibility on their EAP service. And so some organisations say, we are all sorted for our mental health and wellbeing strategy. We have an EAP. And I think there's a lot of pressure on EAPs to, you're working with an individual, but you can't, if someone's telling you about they've got a really high workload and they're working at these huge hours and they're under-resourced or they're really burned out from the last couple of years, the EAP can't address those things. So I think a lot of pressure is placed upon the EAP as an organisation's one-stop shop. But what we know is that is only really supporting one component of the organisation as well. So you might be getting people who are already kind of psychologically well, or maybe just starting to shift a little. I think some organisations don't actually realise that they're engaging in that wellbeing washing. I think actually organisations think, oh, we're celebrating Are You OK Day, or we're doing this and isn't that great? But sometimes when you talk to the team, they're like, well, what goes on here on a day-to-day basis in relation to wellbeing or relation to mental health, it's not so consistent with that.